Today I'm going to show you one of the best Pokemon DS ROM hacks you'll ever see. And it does something not a lot of DS ROM hacks can do, and that is adding an entire new storyline which ties in lore from the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series. But that's not all, they've also added in new characters, Pokemon up until Generation 9, and a lot of the routes that you know and love have had some major changes. There's something special if you want to play Pokemon Garbage Gold, and that's something we're going to find out together. The game starts off as usual with the professor greeting you, only this time he's remembering his lost heroes, as there is a huge Pokemon war going on between the Johto and Kanto region. He says that this terrifying world is widely inhabited by weak creatures called Pokemon, and us humans live alongside them as friends, the remaining ones at least, as all of the strong Pokemon have been drafted up for war. That's why the remaining Pokemon don't want to evolve anymore, so that they don't get drafted themselves. A terrible situation that we're going to try and put a stop to. After picking our character, we get thrown into this terrible world, but we see that we're not Gold like usual. We're actually Brendan from the Hoenn region. We head downstairs and our mother mentions to us that the professor is looking for me. He has some special Pokemon meant only for my hands. So after our mom hands us all of our essentials like bag and trainer card, we head outside and run into an Arceus. He's Lyra's companion and he got terribly injured in the war. That's why they're back in their hometown of Twinleaf so they can rest up and head back to that war as fast as possible. I head out to the lab where the professor says that we'll need a partner to help ourselves along in this wretched world. So he's going to give me one of 3 rare and irreplaceable choices. But just when I'm about to get my choice, a red-haired kid breaks in and steals all 3 Pokemon under our noses. This moment fills Elm with extreme disappointment, but he still has 3 weak Pokemon left. So he lets me choose from the bug types Weedle, Caterpie, and Kricketot. Not something I'm super excited for, but I'm going with the Poison Stinger, Weedle. He then sends me out on a mission to Mr. Pokemon's house because he has a gift for him. And as you try to head outside, you will get 999 rare candies, max repels, and Ultra Balls because all the Pokemarts have been closed down. So these will be the main resources for your adventure. As we head outside, we see Lyra and her Arceus, who tell me to show my new Pokemon to my mom before we head out. And so we find out that my mom had one more present for me, the Pokegear. This lets me call her from anywhere, anytime if I'm in trouble. And after all of that shenanigans, I finally went out and started using up my resources. But before we get into this story, it's time to talk about today's sponsor, Fuse, as they've created an app where you can share all of your gaming experiences with the world. Now you may be asking, how does this actually work? Well, they have a gaming database with over 100,000 games that are updated daily. You can then choose the games that you've already played or are planning on playing, and you can then rate them and write reviews about them so other people know what they're getting into. You can build up your library of games here, from the childhood classics you used to play to the ones you're loving right now. And you can easily wishlist all the games that you are planning to play in the future. For example, I'm currently playing through Baldur's Gate and Persona 3 Reload at the moment, and if I scroll to the community tab, I can learn more about them from other players, making it very easy to engage with people that share your interests. You can also customize your own avatar and level him up through app activities to unlock items and accessories to personalize him further. The avatar will also make you recognizable in community posts and comments so that you can stand out and express yourself as you connect with other people. You can also create and share your top 10 games right here, just like I did, which can definitely help you to make friends that like the same stuff as you. So if you're a gamer like me, Fuse is a must-have platform. And if all of this still doesn't convince you, maybe there are giveaways that are being hosted right now, including an Xbox Series X Galaxy Edition, a 1TB black Steam Deck, and the Black Myth Wukong Collector's Edition might change your mind. So what are you even waiting for? Download Fuse using the links down below and connect with other gamers. A huge thank you to Fuse for sponsoring today's video, and let's get right back into it. There's added encounters in nearly every town and city, and in my hometown here, I managed to capture a ton Pokemon of water types like Barboach, Timpoil, and Wooper to strengthen up my team. On the first round, I captured a couple of weak bug types like Scatterbug and Wurmple, and yes, even these might come in handy against future gym battles, because we might not be able to use strong Pokemon, but our opponents can. So I'm going to try and capture everything possible to keep our options open for future battles. Inside of Rocky Haven, I captured more Pokemon like Carablast, Shelmet, and even a Tyrogue. Once I felt like I had enough resources, I ran into my first Kanto gym leader. These are hiding across the region because they don't want anything to do with the war that's going on, but they also won't let you pass without a battle, so you can see them as skill checks. Brock only had a Geodude and Onix, which both got washed away by my water types. I then moved on and ran into Zarude, the protector of the forest, someone we should probably leave alone so we can protect Johto. A lot of the routes also place down Chanseys where you can heal your Pokemon at, so you don't always have to run back to a Poke Center. Once we reach Cherry Grove City, we get interrupted by the guy who stole our starter Pokemon. He's going to knock my lights out because we've seen and heard too much. He doesn't want the police on his tail, and with me gone, that's basically no problem anymore. And so he starts a battle with me and throws out his Totodile. Even though these Pokemon are supposed to be incredibly strong, my Binacle just destroys it with a Cell Rock, while Weedle uses the custom move Centimpede to take care of Chikorita. That's right, this game also has custom moves so that there's more variety among the weak Pokemon you already get. PP has also been drastically lowered, moves like Swords Dance only have 1 PP, so you can't set up and sweep teams easily. With all of this knowledge bestowed upon you, I destroyed the final Pokemon Cyndaquil with another Accelerock, and so the battle's over. This is where we learn that this guy is going to be the best Pokemon trainer ever, and this is also where the game name gets dropped, as he calls me Garbage Gold. After this, we realize that Steven Stone has been demoted from champion to a hidden power checker. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. We also find a Garchomp that's locked up in a cage and is trying to look for a way to escape. Let's hope he doesn't get out, because that would be a horror for all the weak Pokemon around. I then headed to the rugged road where I used my old rod to capture a Feebas and went inside the grass to find a couple of incredible Pokemon, namely Snivy and one of the best ones in this game, Chatot. You see, Pokemon that normally don't evolve already have decent stats, and Chatot here is one of these contenders, hence why he's not going to be bad for a lot of portions of the game. I then reach Mr. Pokemon's house, who hands me a mystery egg. He says this egg will remind Elm of his Togekiss that passed away in the war, so we should go and give it to him as fast as possible. We then get our free Pokedex from Professor Oak, who says that we're a weakling for getting a bug-type Pokemon, and then I find my way back to the lab where the police investigates the robbery. Luckily, Lyra takes all suspicion off of me by saying it was a red-haired kid named Silver, and so the police can go on their merry way and search for this individual. We then hand the mystery egg to Professor Elm, who says that his Togekiss actually saved Mr. Pokemon a long time ago, and this is supposed to remind him of that time, so that he sees that there's still hope and doesn't give up. We then proceed to head out of there and head straight to Dark Cave. Here we grab a couple of Pokemon that are going to be incredibly important in later battles, like Alolan Geodude, Hisuian Zorua, Noibat, and Sandile. I then head outside and try to find my way to Violet City, but get attacked by a Garchomp along the way. The same Garchomp that was stuck in that cage back in Cherry Grove. He's gone mad, but that isn't the only weird thing. He's also shiny, even though you can barely see it because Garchomp's shiny is absolute garbage. Once he's defeated by my little Ducklet, however, one of the bystanders thanks me for saving his life. Otherwise, he might have been guzzled up. Just before entering Violet City, we run into Lyra one more time, who's back off headed to war. After wishing her tons of luck, we head to the Pokemon Center and we find out that even these buildings have encounters in them at the top floor. This one was filled with electric types that I used to fill up my team, like Elekid, Pichu, Heliolisk, and Plusle. Once I was done filling up, I headed to the cultists at Sprout Tower, where the difficulty starts to kick in just a little bit more, as there's way more of them and they're all forced battles. Some of them even use their Pokemon to make it double battles, which I think is a very nice addition. Once I'm done trashing all of their teams, I head straight to the top and see that Silver has already defeated their boss. He doesn't understand how people like this can be peaceful in times of war and says that it's either kill or be killed.
no in between.
Once he leaves, we challenge the Elder ourselves and make this battle incredibly quick as Chatot and Weedle overpower their entire team with gusts and centipedes. I then head back to the Poke Center and start crafting my team carefully to take on Falkner, which means adding a lot of the electric types we found already to the team. But when we reach Falkner, we see that he's kind of gone insane because this Noctowl by his side is the only thing he has left from his late father, and he wants to protect it with his life. And in a fit of rage, he straight up just attacks me. I throw out my Binacle and using a Cell Rock on his first Pokemon Swablu before swapping into Elekid, who shocks it out of the sky. His beloved Noctowl then dies to 3 Cell Rocks from my Binacle, while his Rufflet is able to finish me off with a Rock Smash and Quick Attack. I swap in Geodude, who takes it out with a Thunder Shock and a Rock Throw, while Elekid takes it upon himself to strike down his last Pokemon, Wingull. He hands me the Zephyr Patch, and this gives us access to use Rock Smash outside of battle. Once we make it outside, we get a call from Professor Elm. He tells me to go to the local Pokemart where we pick up our egg. But we do see something strange when we're in there, as Sableyes are robbing the place. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it, so we head to the Ruins of Alph instead, the place where we have our second paranormal encounter with a talking Grovyle. He's surprised to see that we're not a Pokemon ourselves, and says that talking Pokemon are normal where he's from. But he's here on an important mission and won't tell me what it is, as it's best not to trust anyone when time traveling. He then heads off into the distance, but I have a feeling we'll see this green slick looking dude again. I then headed into the ruins myself, expecting to find some unknowns, only to see that the encounters have been changed to some very important ones like Honedge and Beldum. On the next round, we grab a couple more Pokemon, including a Trico and Bulbasaur. After that, I run into a Wigglytuff that just shouts Yumta at me. And for all the cultured people under us, we know that this is Guild Master Wigglytuff. As we proceed along the route, we run into a Bidoof pack that are blocking the road, so we have to go around it, forcing us into a ton of trainer battles, with at the end a battle with the Kanto Water Master Misty. Her entire team got put back into the pool where they belong by Trico and Elekid's Bullet Seeds and Thunder Shocks. After this, I headed into Relic Cave, but Grovyle is also here, and he's got a bit of a problem. He hates ghosts, and this cave is filled with 4 of them, and they're not just any ghosts. They're strong, big bosses, and he wants me to take care of them so he can have safe passage. And so we end up taking out the shiny Rotom, Misdreavus, and Banette, until we reach the end of the cave where a strange sensation fills the air, and everything starts to feel suffocating. We hear a voice in the distance whispering,
"We are 108. We are Spiritomb."
And as we're trying to protect our friend Grovyle, we take on this mass of spirits. With a couple of chatters, it gets defeated and flees the cave. That's when Grovyle sees that we are indeed able to be trusted, and explains that in the world that he comes from, they have dungeons called mystery dungeons. He came here to investigate our world, but just found out that one of the parts of it has been completely destroyed. And since he's here now, he's going to try and help by stopping this great war that's been going on. He needs to find out who's in power, and because we're traveling to other towns, we'll probably see each other around sooner rather than later. After this, we part ways and reach Azalea Town, where Team Rocket, like usual, is taking over the Slowpoke well. While I'm in this town, I grab my first Fire-type Litleo, who's going to help us out majorly against the upcoming battle with Bugsy. But before we can even try to challenge him, we have to help out the local Pokeball expert, Kurt. He's heard that Team Rocket are torturing Slowpoke in order to make them evolve, and he isn't going to let that slide, so we head into the Slowpoke well together and beat up as many grunts as we can. We of course grab a Slowpoke of our own and any other encounters we can get our hands on, but then something incredible happens. I start running to the back of the cave and run into a shiny Roggenrola. Unfortunately, it's never going to be able to become a beautiful Gigalith, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to capture it. But our luck immediately runs out, because when we reach Proton, a Slowking comes from the depths of the cave and starts attacking us. It's a shiny Slowking, just like the ghosts and the Garchomp we've faced before. This indicates that they've gone mad and are strong and can be captured. So we swiftly take it out with Binacle and Elekid, and that's when Proton sees the opportunity to attack me because we're probably battered up from that nasty Slowking. Little did I know that he was going to have a full team of electric-type Pokemon, which is not really a problem for me, as Elekid low-kicks Magnemite, Voltorb explodes on Barboach and even ends up missing, so this stupid ball takes himself out without doing any damage. A few Bullet Seeds from Trico finish off Chinchou, while Chatot takes care of Joltik and the Elekid with chatter and uproar. Once the battle's over, we learn that Team Rocket has come back because of the Pokemon War, as everybody's Pokemon are weak and this is their chance to rule in the anarchy. But that's when Silver arrives and says that Proton is giving them a bad reputation, as he's an executive losing to a literal child. He can't wait to tell his dad and to see his reaction, which means Giovanni must be around. Silver then proceeds to call me Bug Lover and says that we must be mad that he stole our starter options. But he's not going to entertain me with a battle now and tells Team Rocket to move out. Me and Kurt leave the cave together, and after we get our thanks, we head outside. That's when Groval calls us over because he has found out why all of these Pokemon we've been fighting are shiny. Well, apparently they've gotten a disease that's called shiny sickness, a stress response to being involved in the war on Kanto. They're incredibly dangerous, so we should watch out for them, and if we have a chance to take any of them out, we should, because we don't want more people to die by their hand. Groval then heads into Dusk Forest and tells me to take on the local gym leader Bugsy. He starts off with something that I didn't expect to be so strong, a Pineco. He's able to take out my Binacle and set up 2 layers of spikes before Litleo finishes him off with a couple of flame charges. Our Honedge can then Metal Claw the incoming Anorith, while Shmeev the Roggenrola Rock Blast Larvesta. Once he's taken care of, we use a Rock Tomb or 2 to take out Scyther, while Litleo burns up the final opponent Whirlipede, which gives me the Hive Badge and the ability to cut down small trees, which I immediately use in Dusk Forest to reach Grovyle. He shows me a special shrine that's made to honor a friend of his, Celebi. That's when she actually shows up and says that she's not only his friend but also his greatest lover. They time travel together all the time, saving tons of timelines, but are now here to aid me. Grovyle then explains everything to Celebi about what's happening in this world, and we tell Grovyle we've just gotten our next badge, but Grovyle believes there's more to them, so he and Celebi are going to investigate them to see if they could be useful for anything else. Just when they're about to take my badges, we get ambushed by a horde of Sableyes and their leader, the horrible Dusknoir. Luckily, we managed to time travel out of there before they can get us, and so we end up in the Timeless Hideout. We get a chance to look around and end up getting a couple of encounters here. Only fire types, I may add, but they were definitely useful, as Pokemon like Growlithe, Litwick, and Vulpix joined the team. Once we're done, Celebi teleports us back, and we get to fight Erica at the end of the forest. I take out her first 2 Pokemon, Weepinbell and Tangela, with Noibat's Gust and Litleo's Flame Charge. For the incoming 2, Blossom and Deerling, I used Chatter on Chatot and Flame Charge with Kepik to take those 2 out. This win led me to the inverted coastland, where we met up with a talking Chatot. He needs help because 6 trainers are blocking the incoming path. But be aware, once you enter this path, you cannot leave before all 6 of them are defeated, or if you get taken out by them. Luckily for me, we're not doing a hardcore Nuzlocke, so after feigning a couple of times, all of them are defeated, and we got to capture all the juicy Pokemon this route had to offer. A lot of balls were thrown before we reached Hearthome City, where we see a suspicious-looking Darkrai staring menacingly at the unsuspecting gamblers inside the game corner. I don't want trouble with a mythical Pokemon that can give you endless nightmares, so we decide to leave him alone and head to the radio tower. Here we had to do a quiz that was changed from the original to match the game more, and once we were done, Whitney gave us access to her gym, which was actually incredibly hostile because the moment you step in, you have to battle one of her trainers. And it's not just a normal type gym anymore like usual, she threw in a lot of fairy types as well. But once all of her minions were defeated, I carefully crafted a team that could defeat her. Starting out with a Slowpoke that could water pulse her fake-outing Baneri until it got confused. With the stuffed animal down, Clefairy the Moon Princess came in. I used my Beldum's Metal Claws and Bullet Punches to send it to the grave, which led me into her strongest team member, Chinchino. I didn't really have anything in my boxes that could easily deal with this, so I went to the Geodude and just exploded. This cleared the entire field, so my Houndour's Fire Fangs and Electric's Sparks could take down Wigglytuff. This led us into the final face-off with Tyroke and Miltank as our final team members. I used a Fake Out, 2 Brick Breaks, and a Mag Punch to take care of the cow, and was left with only 3 HP after her Stomp spamming, making this one of the closest battles we've had yet. Of course, I would expect nothing less of Whitney and her legendary Miltank. After some crying, we get our Plane Badge and some extra information. Apparently, nobody remembers why Kanto and Johto were at war, but in the end, we, the Johto region, ended up winning. The gym leaders that are still left in Johto are the ones in charge, as nobody has heard anything from the Pokemon League in a hot second. So we're probably going to find more answers if we eventually reach the Pokemon League. But we've got a long way to go before that. First, we have to talk to Grovyle. He tells me that those Sableye and Dusknoir from earlier are also time travelers and never have good intentions. And he even suspects that they have something to do with the war. He and Celebi also found out that the badges we've been collecting are sort of like time gears. Every world has them to stabilize their time. So we have to collect them all so this balance doesn't get disturbed. Because there's no telling what might happen if Dusknoir and his gang get their hands on these. But we have to keep moving so they don't catch up to us. So we head to the Scorched Trail where we talk to a talking corfish. He, just like the chatbot from before, needs help with crossing this road as trainers are blocking him. Only here the gauntlet exists of 9 trainers. So we start building our team, defeat all the trainers, and reach National Park, where we find one of the most useful Pokemon in this entire playthrough, as its great typing and decent attack will get us through many struggles. And the route straight after gave us yet another awesome team member in a Molga. Another Pokemon with decent stats that doesn't evolve like Chatot, who will smite a lot of evil that will come in our way. After this, we destroy Sudowoodo and run into Lieutenant Surge. Here I mainly use Diglett and Baltoy to get through his team of Stunfisk, Emolga, Raichu, and Electric. And so we defeat the old war veteran and make it to the next meetup point with Grovyle. He's being held up by a turf war between a Zangoose and a Survivor that are suffering from shiny sickness and needs me to take them out. And so we take out Survivor with Geodude's Molten Mud, and Zangoose first takes out 4 of my Pokemon before Baltoy can finish it off with Psybeam. This led us to Ecruteak City, where we visit the Burned Tower. Here we meet Silver again, who's here to try and capture these legendary beasts that are inside of the basement to impress his dad and add them to Team Rocket's arsenal. All 3 of his starters have evolved, and the first one, Croconaw, ends up going down by my Barboach's Mud Bombs. I swap into Houndour to eat up the incoming Bayleaf and Slowpoke with Fire Fangs and Bites, while Baltoy and Barboach's combined powers can put out the flame on his Kilava's head. We then scare him and the 3 legendary beasts out of the tower so that Morty finally leaves and goes back to his duties as gym leader. And after traversing his old women filth gym path, we get to fight him and his ghostly specters. I lead off with Pawniard and use a couple of knockoffs to take out his Trevenant, but I do get burned in the process. Because of this, I have to bring in Houndour and do decent damage on his incoming Lampent with Taxations. Oh yeah, and Taxation is basically Mega Drain but a dark type move, so it heals you for half the damage you deal. Once my little dog fades, Diglett can take out Lambert with Sucker Punch, just like the next Pokemon, Frillish. I am also able to get one off on his Gengar before getting blasted with a Shadow Ball. Zora then proceeds to take care of Gengar, while Skorupi ends up killing Banette with a couple knockoffs, marking the halfway point as we get our 4th time gear. I then try to make my way to Olivine City, but just when I'm about to leave Ecruteak, Grovyle comes to me and says that a Marill and Azurill are missing. They're probably in the route up ahead, and we need to go and help them. However, when we try to enter this new route, we are welcomed into the world of darkness, a place of inescapable nightmares. A voice starts talking to me while I'm in there, saying that I should cease my current mission and head back home. And if we don't, we will suffer the same fate as all the Cantonians. We get thrown back out into a weird forest that eventually leads back to Ecruteak, but we now know that something much darker and sinister must be behind the war. In order to find out more about this mysterious voice, I head to the Western Tundra, where a Sunflora required our help. She wanted to get through, but is being stopped by angry trainers just like the last 2 Pokemon we helped. So just like usual, we go through the gauntlet-filled route and end up at Moo Moo Ranch, where we get attacked by a sick Miltank. Once it's defeated, we can go past it and reach Olivine City, just to see that it's all under snow. Here we meet Silver, who says that the gym leader is not around because she's taking care of some sick Pokemon up at the lighthouse. And if you thought there was already a lot of battles in the regular lighthouse, well, they've added in a bunch more, and all of them are unavoidable. So after a long, stretched out battle session, I eventually reach the top, where we see Jasmine taking care of this shiny sickness Ampharos, but all of a sudden it starts rampaging and attacks me. I end up taking it down with Diglett's Magnitudes and Shuppet's Ominous Wind. This immediately makes it calm down and light up the lighthouse again. Jasmine is incredibly grateful and says we should come and challenge her at her gym. Unfortunately, even after all of this work, a Psyduck is blocking the way, so we should head to Cyanwood instead to see if we can challenge Chuck. But in order to get there, we need the HM for Surf, so we save some kimono girls from a dancing Team Rocket Grunt by showing him the real power of breakdancing. Literally. We broke all of his bones. This impressed the crowd, and one of the gentlemen handed me the HM for Surf. And so we learn a wise lesson. If you want something, just break someone's kneecaps. I'm kidding. Don't actually start breaking people's kneecaps. Except if it's Team Skull, because their leader Skuntank and his minions Coughing and Zubat are blocking the way for me, and they won't let me through until we have 6 time gears. So we head back to Olivine City and go to the beach, where I stock up on some steel-type Pokemon like Mawile, Bronzor, Klink, and even the very useful Pharaoh Seed. At the beach, we finally see the Marill and Azurill that were missing. They just got their float back, but that's when we hear some evil laughs in the background. It's Team Skull, and they want to steal the float for themselves. But Marill tries to protect the float with her life. Unfortunately, Skuntank is too strong and knocks her to the side. That's when Grovyle comes along and knocks all of the bullies out of the way, while Azurill uses its huge power to hurl the float into the sea. Grovyle says that we need to make it to Cyanwood unscathed, and he's going to hold these 3 back while we escape. So we thank our green lizard friend and go on our merry way. So we swim through the trainer-infested waters and eventually reach Cyanwood. I immediately go to the spot where Suicune is standing just to see a waterfall there. Once it's done running away, Yucine beats me up for scaring away his legendary Pokemon, and we end up finding a mystery cave behind said waterfall. Inside, we grab more team members like Larvitar, Cranidos, and even Aron. After this, I waste no more time and head straight to Chuck's gym to stop his waterfall and challenge him for his time gear. He sends out his Scrafty against my Galarian Ponyta. After I hit a black hole, unfortunately, I get taken out. Emolga then takes it out with Air Slash, just like the incoming Poliwrath and Machoke. But he couldn't have done that without a couple of lucky flinches. Unfortunately, that luck ran out when Conkeldurr hit the field and took me out with a Mach Punch. I swapped in Chatot, who, just like Emolga, got a lucky flinch with Air Slash to take out this Conkeldurr, but Primeape and his Supernova burned up my Music Bird. But because of the recoil damage he took, he died in the same turn, and so we gained our 5th time gear. Chuck also says that all the communication with Kanto has in fact been broken, and no one has ventured to the Pokemon League ever since the war. I definitely don't understand why though, as that must be the place where all the answers lie. Once we head outside, his wife hands me the HM for Fly, but before we use it, I capture a couple more useful Pokemon like Pancham and Timburr. Timburr is especially good, as it's one of the only Pokemon that can actually evolve into his 2nd stage, Gurdurr, giving me a huge power boost together with Duck Trio, which will make taking down Jasmine a lot easier. So let's get to it. My Emolga immediately starts off great by taking down her Skarmory with Electro Webs. Next up is Ferrothorn, who normally doesn't falter until you bring out a fire type. Well, this Emolga of mine is so strong that it even slashes through the hardest of steels, as not even the incoming Durand after this could do anything about it. Her Steelix finally got the better of me with a Thunder Fang, but a Scald from Barboach and 2 more Force Palms from Gurdurr end up taking down the snake. And the last thing in her Steel-type arsenal was a Doublade, who got melted down by a Fire Punch and Flame Charge from my Darumaka. And so we get our 6th time gear and some extra info. Apparently, Jasmine thinks that Shiny Sickness and Sleep are somehow related, as Ampharos almost immediately developed it after the war with Kanto started. She started having bad dreams, and boom, all of a sudden she turned shiny and restless. Some information we'll definitely keep in mind when we head to the Eastern Tundra, as this is where we face yet another Cantonian gym leader, Sabrina. She and her Psychic type ended up being a piece of cake, as the strongest things she had were an Alakazam and Malamar that couldn't stand up to my Pancham's low sweeps and my Duck Trio's sucker punches. Once this was done, we checked out the next of the route and added some more Pokemon to our roster, like Vanillite, Abra, Axew, and Porygon. A hiker then ran into me and handed me the HM for strength as an apology. This allowed me to enter Crevice Cave, which was now filled with ice puzzles. After my small brain was done dealing with all of them, we eventually reached Mahogany Town, but the gym leader Price was nowhere to be found, so I wanted to head to the Lake of Rage, which was blocked off by Blaine and his fire-type team. He and his Ninetales, Rapidash, Macargo, and Talonflame ended up getting crushed by my Girder and Doug trio. With his defeat in hand, we defeated many more trainers on our way to the Lake of Rage just to see that it was totally frozen over, except for one tiny patch that was inhabited by the shiny red Gyarados. This shiny sick Pokemon was also rampaging about. Luckily, my Emolga's Electro Web put a stop to it rather quickly, but as we try to leave the lake, we end up running into one of the most legendary trainers of all time, Cynthia. She wants my help in an investigation, as she thinks somebody or something is making the Magikarp in the Lake of Rage evolve out of pure force, and she's tracked down a radio broadcast coming from Mahogany. So we end up charging into a shop together where everything seems glitched out. Because of this, we have no idea what's happening, but in the end, we end up going down a staircase and find a secret Team Rocket HQ. After battling a couple of their grunts, we turn off the alarm and venture deeper together with Cynthia. This is where we find a group of Grogunk just vibing around and blocking the path, so that we're forced to battle every single manpower this base has to offer, eventually leading me to a confrontation with Silver, who just lost all of his Pokemon to a battle with Cynthia. But that isn't what bothered him. It's what she said, mentioning that he doesn't need to seek the approval of his father all the time. He doesn't want to deal with stuff like that right now, and so he pushes me aside and leaves the base. We then enter the executive's office and unmask a disguised Giovanni as Petrel, who is not willing to give me the password without a fight. His full-on Dark-type team consisting of Scrafty, Mandamus, Pangoro, and Swilus was really no problem, as Girder, Dugtrio, and Darumaka managed to clutch it up. Petrel then leaves the base but leaves his Murkrow behind, as I chase it down the base while it screams "Hail Giovanni." The bird then opens up a door that leads to the generator that is emitting the radio signal, and just when I'm about to enter to take the generator out, Ariana and one of the grunts try to stop me. Luckily for me, my maiden in black is here to help me out, as Cynthia doesn't think it's fair to fight 2-on-1, and so I ended up fighting side by side with the Sinnoh champion. Her Garchomp was incredibly useful, as my opponents only had poison-type Pokemon and it kept taking them out with Earth Shatter. And even when Garchomp fell, her Hydreigon still had my back. But in the end, Emolga had to deliver the finishing blow with a discharge, taking down the final two Pokemon, Swalot and Weezing. With the battle done, we get free reign to destroy all of the electrodes in our paths and turn down the generator, making Mahogany Town and the Lake of Rage safe once more. Cynthia thanks me and wishes me luck in my future endeavors, and so it's time for me to head into Price's gym, as we complete many ice puzzles and defeat all of his skiing and snowboarding goons. He himself wasn't easy to deal with, as his starting Pokemon Aurorus sets up a light screen and hits my Pawniard. In the end, I do take it down with 2 Iron Heads, and after hitting 2 more Iron Heads into his defensive Glacier Avalugg, I decide to swap in Bronzor to cancel out his dig with Levitate. All we have to do is hit 1 Flash Cannon and we can move on to Beartic. He's a little bit too bulky for my Bronzor, but I'm still able to bring him down into the red before falling to hail damage. I use Pawniard Sucker Punch to finish it off, however, but Abomasnow has a nasty Earthquake that buries Pawniard. We kick it 2 more times with Pancham's Low Sweep and then finish it off with Klink's Flash Cannon. His final Pokemon Walrein gets hit hard with a Mirror Coat but heals back up with a Citrus Berry. That's Ferroseed's cue to come in. I plant the Leech Seed on him and spam Seed Bomb, which ultimately breaks his tusks and gives me my 7th Time Gear. We head outside and talk to Grovyle and Celebi, who urge me on to take the final Time Gear in Blackthorn City. But there are more urgent matters at hand as well, as they found out that Team Rocket is going to the radio tower because their boss Giovanni has gone away to the Kanto region in order to reach the Indigo Plateau and take control of Kanto and Johto altogether. And we cannot let that happen, so we have to go to the radio tower while Grovyle search for a safe way to Blackthorn. But we don't want to raise too much suspicion, so we go and grab ourselves a disguise and head inside to try and sneak past the guards. And that's when Silver shows up and unmasks me, telling me to strip myself from my uniform, while ordering their grunt we just tried to get past to attack me. An easy battle for someone like me, and Silver obviously doesn't want the smoke right now. He ends up going away but leaves some coffins behind on the entrance that will explode if we try to leave, so we're trapped here. So the only option for us is to fight our way through the grunts and get into the director's office, who's been disguised as Petrel yet again. He's done with me trying to fold our plans and wants to stop me here and now, but me, Pawniard, and Cranidos have something to say against that. Mainly my Pawniard's new move, Guillotine, who's now a steel-type move with 120 base power that will lower my defense and special defense, which makes it incredibly useful and incredibly deadly. And with Cranidos' insane attack stat, the rest of Petrel's team stands no chance. We end up getting the location of the director and the basement key to get there, but just when we're about to knock some more heads, Silver comes after me. He can't let me foil his plans again and throws out his Freligator against my Pharaoh Seed. All we need is 2 Seed Bombs and a Quick Claw activation to come out on top against this Gator, and his Typhlosion is also no problem for my Cranidos' Accelerox. Meganium thinks it has me trapped, but little did it know I have Air Slash on my Chatot. After this beautiful flowered dinosaur got cut down, Murkrow comes in and Dark Pulses both Slowbro and Luxio into oblivion. As the battle finishes up, Silver cries out, saying that this whole situation is just a way to try and find his dad, as he misses him and wants him back. And all of those executives we've been dealing with have just been his puppets. And while this might be sad, I can't let Giovanni take control. So we save the director and get his card key so we can get to the top of the tower. On our way, we defeat 2 more executives, Proton and Ariana. And once we take the elevator up, we get to face the final man standing, Archer. He's in disbelief that his boss left him behind to go to the Kanto wasteland. So far, he's not responded, and he won't stop broadcasting this message until he's back, as he's ready to defend his position from me with his life. The battle commences as he throws out his Typhlosion, who makes a quick barbecue chicken of my Chatot. Although I was able to get a tri-attack off, which gave my Cranidos the opportunity to kill with Accelerock. Houndoom also went down to 2 of them, but Chandelure's Shadow Shift put my fossil back into the ground. Murkrow's Dark Pulse is more than enough to take it out, but Talonflame was a bit much to handle, so I brought in Pawniard instead, used the Sucker Punch, and knocked the bird out of the sky. I proceed to do major damage against his final Pokemon Pyroar, while Girder finished it off with one final Drain Punch. Archer then finally gives up, saying that
Giovanni is just being stupid, chasing his ambitions that will never come to fruition.
With Team Rocket now disbanded, the director comes to thank me and hands me his Rainbow Wing, and tells me that we should bring it to the Bell Tower if we want to see the legendary Pokemon it's supposed to make appear. But we have way more urgent tasks at hand than some flying turkey, as our next destination is Winter's Edge, where a Duck Trio is in need of our help. You see, his son Diglett is being held hostage by some hostile trainers, and we need to save him. But we need all the help we can get, so I end up capturing a Mienfoo and Machop to help me out in my future endeavors. This lets me rescue Diglett safely and reach the Ice Path, where we'll have to do more ice puzzles and find Pokemon that are going to be extremely helpful in our fight against Clair, the most notable one being Spheal. After pushing a Kimono Girl out of the cave, we managed to get out ourselves and run into our good old pal Grovyle. He says that Celebi is searching for a way to go to Kanto, but all means of transportation are being blocked somehow. Just like always, he urges me to get the final time gear, and when he's about to leave, we hear a voice from the shadows. It's Dusknoir and his Sableye, who surround Grovyle in an instant and take him away, while I'm left wondering where they might go. And there is only one way I'm going to find out, and that is if I defeat Clair. So we went into her gym, crossed some lava, defeated all her trainers, and got 3 evolutions done: Celio, Machoke, and Fracture. These 3 were crucial in my win against her. So let's see how I defeated the strongest gym leader in the region. First up was Chatot versus Zygarde, 2 hyper voices, and we win. Her Tyrantrum thought it was gonna have an easy kill, until my Chatot busted out the air slashes and flinched it every turn and took it down. Goodra finally put a stop to my bird's rampage, so I had to bring in Fracture, set up one Dragon Dance, and kill it with a Dragon Claw. Dragonair also got one shot, but Mega Altaria was too much. But not for Celio, as my Ice Beams froze it out of the sky. And finally, Kingdra was an easy two-shot with Ponyta's Dazzling Gleams. Even after all this, she still doesn't hand me the time gear and tells me to head to Dragon's Den instead. Here we complete a mini quiz where I state my love for bug-type Pokemon in search of the truth. Clair comes in and the Elder orders her to give me the time gear, as this will help her atone for her sins she has committed back in Kanto. We are then told to go back to the professor, and when we arrive, both him and Lyra are impressed that we've managed to make it so far. He also knows we're going to head to Kanto to uncover the secrets of the war, but before we do, we have to go to the Kimono Girls because they have requested my presence. So we fly to Ekritik and try to enter their dojo, but Silver gets kicked out right at that moment, as he mentions that they're the strongest trainers he's ever faced because of their powerful Mega Pokemon. So now it's time for me to give it a shot. You see, the Kimono Girls have more information. Apparently, their leaders at the Indigo Plateau got put into a sleepy hypnotic state while being controlled by an evil force, and so their Pokemon fell ill with shiny sickness while rampaging through the streets of Kanto. And if we want to make it to Indigo Plateau, we have to be incredibly strong, hence why they want to test my strength. We've somehow managed to overpower all of their Megas. I'm talking Gyarados, Gardevoir, Camerupt, Manectric, and even Slowbro. As a reward, they hand me the Clear Bell, and then Cynthia comes running in. She says that something dark just came over the bell tower and that we should go and check it out immediately. So we show our Rainbow Wing to the monk and make our way through the parkour of the tower. When we reach the top, we see the Kimono Girls using the Clear Bell to create their beautiful dance to summon Ho-Oh. When they are done, the Guardian of the Sky comes swooping down, but when we're about to challenge it to a battle, Cynthia tells us to stop because that is not Ho-Oh. We've been deceived. This is but an illusion of the real thing. The Kimono Girls don't believe these claims, but Celebi is here to explain everything to them. You see, after I defeated Price, she and Cynthia met each other. They gave each other the knowledge they had about the situation we were in and came to the conclusion that the entire war and the shiny sickness were caused by one Pokemon. That would be the creature that speaks up from the shadows and appears right in front of us, Darkrai. He introduces himself as the mastermind and says that it was shockingly easy to convince Red to obliterate the other tower that is now known as the Burnt Tower. And with his Bad Dreams ability, he was able to convince all of the other gym leaders in Kanto to dance at his will. But he did not anticipate Cynthia, Celebi, Grovyle, and me to meddle in all of these affairs. But it's of no matter to him, as he summons the legendary Pokemon Ho-Oh by his side and orders it to attack me at once. And while it might have been struck by shiny sickness, that doesn't mean my Cranidos' Accelerock and Celio's Muddy Water can't take it out. Ho-Oh's defeat makes Darkrai realize that he can't just knock us out here, but he reminds me that he still has my friend Grovyle, and if we want him back, we have to come to the Kanto wasteland to try and save him. So we head back down and meet Cynthia together with Celebi back in town. Together, we teleport to the Kanto wastelands and see that there is nothing left. The entire region is gone and replaced with a mountain of ash. We're still in disbelief that all of this was caused by just one Pokemon. When we go to investigate, we quickly run into a familiar face. Not to me, but to a lot of people. It's Silver's father, Giovanni. He says that this is indeed all there is left of Kanto besides the Pokemon League. He was going to try and take it over, but now that he sees all of this destruction, he decided to abandon that dream just like Team Rocket, as not even he would dare to cause such careless destruction. But he still presses on to see what else is left. He tells me to do the same, but when we try to get further into the wasteland, we get stopped by Dusknoir and his Lankies. He was sent here by Lord Darkrai to kill me. Little did he know that he and a team of 6 Sableye was nothing compared to the Pokemon I have in my arsenal, as they are defeated rather easily. And because he has failed, Darkrai decides to snap him out of existence, which gives me room to investigate the rest of Kanto. Kanto. After slapping away a Mega Houndoom that tried to attack me, we eventually run into Giovanni again. He says that a wasteland for one is a home for another, as he's found a ton of large red gems that are supposed to be the many hearts of Groudon. He thinks that perhaps he bears his heart to us as a plea for help. So we go out and touch all 3 of the gems that are scattered around, which then leads me to Groudon himself, who has put his trust into me. He needs me, a trainer with pure heart, to defeat the perpetual darkness that eats away at this land every night and day. Behind him lays a portal that can end all of this, but when we're about to approach it, Giovanni comes over to me and says that all of the Johto leaders are a disgrace to their homeland for doing this to the Kanto region, and that if we really want to save our friend, we're going to have to get past him first, as he needs to test our skills to see if we're strong enough. He had a pretty pathetic team. His Persian went down to a single dynamic punch of my Machoke's no guard. Kangaskhan got defeated by another dynamic punch and an Accelrock from my Cranidos. The last 3 Pokemon, Marowak, Rhydon, and Nidoking, all got muddy watered away, and so the leader of Team Rocket is defeated. In that point, Giovanni realizes that he's basically lost everything. His evil team probably hates him, his home region has been blown away, and all of his hopes and dreams are crushed. But in that moment, we hear someone screaming "Dad" as Silver runs up to him. He starts apologizing for being a weak trainer and that he can never live up to his expectations, but Giovanni calms him down and says that he is, in fact, proud of his son. He finally sees the reason why he's still alive, and the reason that he needs to keep living, as he will try to be the best dad for Silver there is. And as the heartfelt moment goes on, we leave them in peace and head to the portal. As we step into the dark pit, we end up on an island surrounded by lava. We feel something creeping down our spine, and that's when Darkrai shows up. He knows we're here to get our friend back and says that
instead of us fighting like savages, we should join him.
And he even starts controlling Groval's mind to let him say that
We should indeed not fight, because we can't win anyway. We should join Darkrai.
But we see right through his deception and tell him that Groval would never say something like this, and we will never join his cause. So we push Darkrai out of the way, but that's when he surrounds me with a ton of strong Pokemon. We fight all of them one by one and knock them out with swift punches. And with the power of Cranidos, Machoke, and a Dragon Dancing Fracture, Darkrai gets defeated. Darkrai realizes that he's lost, but says that we will never catch him, as he disappears and whispers to me,
"Beware the storm at sea."
We go up to Grovyle, who thanks me for saving him, but also wonders how we're ever going to get out of here. Luckily, Groudon shows up and takes us away from this wretched place. We end up in a dark cave where one last item, a life orb, is going to help us out against the final challenge of this game. When we're about to go and face it, Grovyle says that the Elite Four and Champion are still under the influence of Darkrai, but with a single bash to the head, they should snap out of it. There should also be a machine at the end of the Elite Four. That's where we have to put our time gears so that the league is protected from any future attacks. He says that he's proud to have met me. He really considers me his partner now, which is something he can't say lightly. He and Groudon are going to check back on Cynthia and Celebi while we have to finish this. For Kanto, for Johto, for all the lives Darkrai has taken. And so I walk into the ruins that once represented something great and got my team ready. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to enter with my current Pokemon because they exceeded the level cap, so I had to build an almost entire new squad. I took my newly evolved Krokorok with me, as well as Mienfoo, Ponyta, Pawniard, Seal, and Emolga. These were the heroes that were going to face the final challenge. We walk into Will's room, who's still half asleep, and start attacking him. Pawniard starts clearing the path by taking down Starmie with 2 sucker punches and doing some decent damage on Mega Gallade. Once he goes down, Galarian Ponyta can come in and use Play Rough until this mighty warrior falls. Then we put the incoming Gothitelle to sleep, heal up, and take it down with some Play Roughs. With one more Hypnosis, Espeon also falls into into a slumber. This gives my Krokorok the chance to take it out with 2 crunches, while the last Pokemon Claydol dies to 3. And so we liberate Will, who wakes up from his slumber and doesn't know where he is or how long it's been. He urges me to check up on the next member, Koga, as well, so that's what we'll be doing. He leads off with a Swalot that Ponyta can take care of with 2 extra sensories, but unfortunately for me, his Mega Beedrill Poison Tails me. Emolga does hit it with an Air Slash after, leaving me with like 1 HP, so that Seal is able to knock it out with Ice Shard. The incoming Vileplume then dies to a Guillotine Iron Head combo from Pawniard, but Drapion takes me out with Bug Bite. I then have to bring in Krokorok to hit it with an Earth Shatter and a Cellrock, which is still not enough. Even a Fake Out from Mienfoo doesn't take it out. That's when Seal has to come in yet again and hit another Ice Shard. His last Pokemon is a Quillfish, and if my Seal didn't get 2 freezes with Ice Beam, we probably would have lost, but luckily for me, we didn't get the short end of the stick and defeated Koga. With 2 members snapped out of eternal sleep, our next opponent was going to be Bruno. Just like always, Ponyta puts in the work by taking out Hitmonlee with Play Rough. Seal then burns the incoming Mega Lucario and kills it with a couple more Scalds. After this, Mienshao goes down to Play Rough, Mienfoo kicks a Panda, and Emolga slices the air out of Heracross. With Bruno defeated, there is one more Elite Four member to go, and that's Karen. She and her Dark types weren't really all that much trouble, as Emolga takes out the first one, Honchkrow, with Discharge. Her Crocodile dies to 2 Air Slashes, yet again because of those lucky flinches, while Mienfoo kicks the metal off of a Bisharp, but she crashes into the ground when faced with an illusion of Zoroark. Luckily, we still have Pawniard and his revenge to take care of it, but the Mega Absol at the end was too much. After bringing his HP down dangerously low, Krokorok could come in and finish up with one more Cellrock. That defeats the Elite Four, and so we have one more opponent to go. Lance, the champion. He doesn't seem to be asleep, but he got persuaded by Darkrai in his dreams, saying that I was evil and that he was meant to take me out. But I don't care about any of that. Darkrai's rule has to end, and we're going to let his dragons perish. And we start out by taking down his first Leviathan, Gyarados, with a Discharge from Emolga. The incoming Druddigon takes an Air Slash, but is able to counter back with a Dragon Pulse and a Cellrock to take out my Flying Squirrel. Seal is able to freeze it over with an Ice Shard and an Ice Beam, and also almost ends up taking out Dragonite. And while his Dragon Breath was too much in the end, that didn't mean my Krokorok couldn't take revenge with one more Cellrock. He also shattered Aegislash's shield before facing Lance's biggest threat, Mega Charizard X. After hitting one more Earth Shatter and dying to a Fire Spin, Ponyta can play roughly one last time, and so Lance is defeated. This makes him snap out of Darkrai's control, and he now sees that he has been deeply deceived. He knows that Darkrai held the entire Pokemon League in its clutches for years, and he also realizes that his will was so weak that he succumbed, so he is to blame. As he initiated the first attack and his protege Clair raised half of Kanto in an afternoon. It wasn't even much of a fight, it was actually a massacre. The only trainer who even stood a chance in that moment was Red, the master of Pokemon. He realizes that he can do nothing to make amends, but that's when the door behind him opens up and Red walks out. He stands there without saying a word, but finally ends up talking. He says,
I'm not one for words, but today is different. Your League cronies locked me up when they realized I was the only one to defend Kanto. You're the reason that I lost my mother. So what do we say? An eye for an eye? What? You're too scared to fight an even battle? Fight me now, or let this new champion do so.
And so Lance begs me to please fight Red for world peace. We initiate the battle, and Red says that forgiveness will never happen, but we are ready to face him and his wrath. My Krokorok ends up winning the fight against his Pikachu with an Earth Shatter and a Cellrock. Emolga ends up doing major damage against his Mega Blastoise but gets cannoned out of there, so Pawniard is forced to smash its shell with Sucker Punch. Seal hits an Ice Shard on the incoming drought-setting Mega Charizard Y, but it's of no use as not even my Krokorok's Cellrock takes it down. Now that it's sustained a lot of damage though, Pawniard can come in and finish it off with yet another Sucker Punch. Lapras tries to save the day with a Perish Song, but it's not enough as I guillotine an Iron Head. This makes the sea creature sink, and so Snorlax is up next. Couple of high jump kicks from Yunfu and its belly fat is spread out all over the room. One last Pokemon to go, and that is Mega Venusaur, so I bring back Pawniard, use 2 guillotines, and cut that plant right off the Toad's back. With that, Red is defeated, and he tells me that we can make our peace by placing the time gears up ahead. Once inside, he tells me to place my gears and Pokemon as this war is finished, and that the peace treaty between Kanto and Johto will be instated. He knows that it's going to be hard for people to forgive, but even through all of this destruction, there is a golden lining, and that is peace for all. And that is my story of how I conquered Pokemon Garbage Gold and restored balance to the world.